This is section 3.8 again. Okay, come on, focus.
No, Sophia.
Okay, so ultimately we're going to talk about derivatives of inverse functions. Let's just jot down a couple of things that you said. Do you remember the symbol?
Y negative 1 to the negative.
That, right? Okay, so Olivia told us that x and y are interchanged. That's one thing you remembered. Yeah, and that's really the same thing. Here's one thing I'm not sure if you remember. If f and g are inverses of one another, then f of g of x is equal to what? Do you remember? What? G of f of x, which is equal to, do you remember this? If you plug one in for the other,
1.
x. Okay, so let's talk about the existence of an inverse function. A function has an inverse if and only if it is, anybody remember? What has to be true? Well, you're getting warmer. 1 to 1. Right? If and only if it's 1 to 1. Do you remember what 1 to 1 means?
It
passes the horizontal line test. Right? Yes, and the vertical line test. If f is monotonic, do you guys remember that word?
Nope.
Ms. Sanders, so a function has an inverse always, but the inverse is a function all the time?
Right. If f is monotonic on its entire domain, do you remember? So you don't know this word? No. Monotonic? It means strictly increasing or strictly decreasing. Okay? Has to be strictly increasing or strictly decreasing. If it didn't, what would fail? The horizontal line test, right? Okay, so I'll put here in parentheses in case you don't know. Increasing, I'll need to put strictly increasing or decreasing is monotonic. So what does that mean in terms of calculus? Let's backtrack a minute. If it's monotonic, that means it's strictly increasing or strictly decreasing. The derivative is either always positive or always negative, right? Okay. Right, so if f is monotonic on its entire domain, then it's obviously what? Then it's 1 to 1. and therefore has an inverse. Okay, let's get this down. If f is differentiable, meaning what? You can take its derivative, right? If it is differentiable at every point on an interval I, and dy dx is never, what could it never be if we're going to talk about inverses here? Zero on I. Then f has an inverse. And the inverse, which we denote f negative 1, right, is differentiable. At every point on the interval I. I don't know whose lunch is in this trash can, but I cannot do Okay, you ready? Given that g of x is the inverse of f of x, find g prime of x. Okay, you ready?
Wait.
We're about to, I have to give you lots more. Okay, I mean, I'm going to give you more information here. Okay, so given that g of x is the inverse of f of x, find g prime of x. Okay, so remember this, f of g of x equals x, right? If they are inverses of one another, this is true. Here, I'll put this. Recall, f of g of x is equal to x if they are inverses, right? Okay, well, let's find the derivative of this. Okay, I need to find the derivative of both sides, right? Yes, I'm going to have to do the chain rule. Okay, so what is the derivative of this side? F prime of g of x times g prime of x. And what's the derivative of the right side? 1. What am I interested in? G prime of x. What can I do? I can solve for it, right? So g prime of x is equal to 1 over f prime of g of x. This is a definition that you have to know for derivative of the inverse. Okay, so I want you to leave that for a minute. Don't put it away. Did I already give these to you guys? I did, didn't I? Okay, so just set this to the side for a minute. And I want you to go to this page. Okay, and let's look at problem number 1 here together. Suppose 2, 7, and 9, 4 are 2 points on the graph of f. Find the slope of the line containing these 2 points. What do?
Use the y2 minus y1.
Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? That's okay. So what do I, tell me what to write. 4 minus 7 over 9 minus 2, which is equal to what? Negative 3/7.
Oh.
Okay. Name 2 points on the graph of the inverse of f.
7, 2, and 7.
Yes, 7, 2, and 4, 9. Everybody agree with that? Those are the only 2 points that you could find right now. Find the slope of the line connecting the points you found in B.
7/3.
Okay, so that's 9 minus 2 over 4 minus 7. So negative 7/3.
I thought it was
Okay.
opposite.
Right. Okay, so what do you find? They are reciprocals, right? Okay, let's go over here to 2. Everybody good here? Okay, let f of x equal this. Find the point on the graph of f whose x-coordinate is 1. What does that mean to do? It means find f of 1, right? Okay, and f of 1 is 1 plus 2 plus 1 minus 1, which is 3. Said that with such confidence. 2. Find the slope of the line tangent to the graph of f at this point. What does that mean to do? Find the derivative of f at 1, 3, right? Okay, so let's find the general derivative first. And the derivative is 5x to the 4th plus 6x squared plus 1. And now find f prime of 1, which is 5 plus 6 plus 1, which is 12.
2.
Find the point on the graph of the inverse of f whose x-coordinate is 3. 1, right? Right, because this is the inverse, right? If the inverse has an x-coordinate of 3, then its y-coordinate is 1. So 3, 1. Find the slope of the line tangent to the graph of the inverse of f at the point in C. 1/12. Right? Okay, so look, go back to that definition we just wrote down over here. G prime of x is equal to 1 over f prime of g of x. Right? So, g of x. Tell me what g of x represents.
The inverse function.
Okay, what value of it? It's the y value, right? G of x, the whole thing together, is the y value of the inverse. If it is the y value of the inverse, it is the x value of the original, right? So y value of the inverse is, 1, right? So this becomes 1 over f prime of 1. And I calculated f prime of 1 to be 12. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So go back to this and let's label some things, okay? Okay, so let's start with this. G prime of x. Let me see what I want to do. Well, no, we're going to label some things. So that x right there, this is the x value of the what? Inverse. Which means it's the also the what? Y value of the original. G of x altogether, the whole thing, is the what?
Or the y value.
Y value of the inverse. Which means it's what? X value of the original. Okay, let's talk about that. What does that represent? X value of the original. Which means it is the y value of the inverse. And then the whole thing, the entire f of x is the what? Y value of original, which means it's the okay, so you seem to have a pretty decent feel for that. Okay, so let's go back to your worksheet. Everybody good there? You got that? Okay, so let's work some more stuff together here. Okay, so let f of x equal cosine x plus 3x. Find, what does that mean? Say it for me, f of 0. So that means to do what?
Find the y value.
Right, so do cosine 0 plus 3 times 0. What's that equal?
Y.
1. What is that? That's f prime. Okay, and I'm sorry it's a comma, but it is what it is. Okay, that represents prime as opposed to this over here, which represents inverse. Okay, so it's really important that you're paying attention. All right, so what do I need to do before I can find f prime of 0? Good, find f prime of x. F prime of x is negative sine x plus 3. So f prime of 0 is 3. Okay, so let's carefully go over here. Find the inverse of f at 1. 0. Okay, I'm only hearing like one response on a lot of these, okay, so I need to make sure, I need to make sure we're hearing more. If it's the y value of the inverse, it's the x, right? It's the x value in the inverse, which means it's the y value of the original. So what's the x value associated with that? 0. So just remember, interchanging x and y, right? Okay, so now I need the inverse derivative at 1/3. Right? Because it is 1/f prime of 0? Because I'm interchanging. Okay, let's see how we do here. Suppose f and g and their inverses are differentiable functions with the values shown below. Okay, so here's my x values. Here's f of x, g of x, f prime, and g prime. What does this say to do?
Find the inverse prime.
Find the derivative of the inverse of f at 2. Right? Find the derivative of the inverse at 2. What will that be equal to? 1/f prime of, okay, so just go, don't put g, like keep f and f together here. So this would be f prime of g of
2.
Yeah, me, you too. 5.
If it's the x value in the inverse,
It's the y value of the original.
it's the y value of the original,
5.
so of 5, right? Of g of 5?
2. This is not.
This is not on the quiz tomorrow. Hang on, though. I have something wrong.
This is like
Where's my worksheet from earlier? Sorry, it's f prime of 5, not g of 5. G of 2. That's my fault. F prime of g of 2, right? And g of 2 is 5.
Oh, okay. I didn't make it F and G are your inverses. I was like, really?
No.
Yeah, f and g are inverses.
What?
Like for me, I think it's actually easier to kind of skip this step right here instead of putting that g of 2 in, since this is the x value 2, it has to be 5 here.
Is it bad that I just noticed it? What the heck would you pie come from? It makes no sense.
Oh. Wait, that's not
Yeah,
5?
just poof a pie out of nowhere.
Wait, so what is that? It's not 5.
This is 1 over pi.
Oh, it is pi.
Uh-huh.
What?
Because look,
What were you gonna say?
f prime at 5 is pi.
Okay.
Okay, let's do another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said. Wait, that's saying the inverse of F?
They're saying, yeah, so F and G and their inverses are given here. So this is the part that is no good. And this, I'm sorry, this is,
Wait,
I'm putting this in because of how you normally see these problems. Because G of X is normally the inverse of F whenever we talk. But in this particular case, we just need to put that. Forget the G thing. Okay? Let's just do some more. Okay, stay with me. Let's do some more. Okay, so this tells me to find what? The derivative of the inverse of G at 5. Okay? So that will be equal to 1 over G prime of
8.
of 2.
2.
Of 2. Because look at G. Okay? Inverse. If you want it, this is the G prime, this is the inverse, right? That negative 1 indicates inverse. So 5 is the X value of the inverse, which means it's the Y value in the original, right? And by definition, it's 1 over G prime of the X value, G prime of 2. So this turns into 1 over G prime at 2 is square root of 2. I don't have to simplify that. Okay, so I think these are a little difficult because of the F and G, and we've just talked about them being. Let's go to this one. Let's see if we do better here. What time is it?
10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now F and G are inverses of one another. Okay, F and G are inverses of one another. If F of X is equal to 3 minus 4x cubed, find G prime at negative 1. So that means what? The derivative of the inverse of F at negative 1. Okay, so that's what that means. Okay, so, okay, I know I'm going to need F prime, so we can find it if you want. But what do I need F prime evaluated at? And I know you're not supposed to end a sentence with a preposition. Okay? What do I need? What value?
Well, y is negative 1.
Y is negative 1. So what do I need to do, Olivia?
Plug in y.
I need to put, good, I need to set negative 1 equal to 3 minus 4x cubed.
I'm sorry, y is y negative 1?
Okay, here's why. Okay, so G is the inverse, right, Nick? Okay, so this negative 1 is the X in the inverse, which means it's the Y in the original. So I have to set negative 1 equal to that. So I'm going to get 4x cubed is equal to 4, which means x cubed equals 1, which means x equals 1. So by definition, right, the definition of an inverse derivative, G prime of X is equal to 1 over F prime of G of X, right? If you want that definition. So G prime of negative 1 is equal to 1 over F prime of 1.
Then we have to plug it back into the.
Right, so there's my F prime of X, right? So the answer is
Negative 12.
negative 1/12.
2. 2.
I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that the first couple of years that I taught this course, when I got to this, I just skipped it. Because here's the thing, like, I could do it. I could pick the answers and all the multiple choice questions and all the AP exams. I could pick it. I could get the answer, but I could not for the life of me explain it to anyone. So, anyway, it is. It's really hard to explain.
Too much worse than math.
Okay, so come over here to 6. If f of x is equal to 4 over 1 plus x squared for x greater than or equal to 0, find the what? The derivative of the inverse at 2. Okay? All right. So, what do I need to do with this 2 immediately? Set it equal to that. Right? Because if it's the x value of the inverse, it's the y value of the original. So I'm going to do this. So I'm going to get 2 plus 2x squared is equal to 4. 2x squared is equal to 2. X squared is equal to 1. What's the only x value I have to use, though? 1. It's really plus or minus 1, but what does this say?
Greater than or equal to 0.
Greater than or equal to 0. So I just need to use the positive one, right? Okay, so the inverse derivative at 2 will be equal to what? 1 over f prime of... Okay, I'm not using g of x anymore, though. I'm using all this. Just tell me the number to put in there. 1. Right? Because that's the x value of the original, which is the y value of the inverse.
Oh, okay.
Right? Okay, so 1 over... Ugh. Okay, so now I got to do f prime of x, right? I'll go do it over here. So f prime of x, well, first I'll write that f of x is 4 times 1 plus x squared to the negative 1. So that's negative 4, 1 plus x squared to the negative 2 times 2x. So negative 8x over 1 plus x squared squared. So then I'm supposed to plug 1 in, right? So negative 8 over 4, negative 2.
Okay.
Yes.
I got the same answer.
Did you use the quotient rule? It's fine.
I just ignored the 4 over 1 and just did the x to the negative 2. And I found the derivative to be negative
Wait. You can't ignore things.
I just skipped to the end.
You can't ignore things.
Look in the back of you.
Because I think I just got lucky.
Yeah, you might have gotten lucky. Okay, let's keep going.
I just thought it was
Okay, skip this for now. Skip number 7 for now. And go here. Number 8. Star it. Okay? Because that's more likely to be the type of problem you would see on an AP test. Okay? So let's read it together. Let f and g be functions that are differentiable everywhere. If g is the inverse function of f, and if g of negative 2 equals 5, and g prime of 5 is equal to negative 1/2, find g prime of negative 2. Okay, Okay?
We got this.
So everyone think for a minute quietly at your desk. Think, concentrate, write some things down.
I'm gonna make you space for a second. That's a Nazi song.
Yeah, it is. No. Oh.
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh.
Yikes. Okay, really quickly. So g prime of negative 2 would be 1 over f prime of 5. Right? You know where to get that?